Hello, everybody. Welcome back to Cinema Savvy. It is myself, George, joined once more by Tayte for a very special spoiler discussion. We are, of course, talking Deadpool and Wolverine, which is out in cinemas now. Everybody knows about it. Most people have probably seen it. And it's time for us to do a spoiler discussion as we go through all the major moments, talk about many characters too, and everything that happened with this film, a film that is projected to break records this weekend. It's, of course, out worldwide now, directed by Sean Levy, starring Ryan Reynolds, and, of course, Hugh Jackman returning to the role of Wolverine. But before we start talking about things like that, Tayte, how are we doing tonight?
I am doing very good because it's not just, the fact that we get to discuss a film, which I actually quite like, but it's more of the fact of, the experience behind the film as well. And I know that, we'll talk a little bit about that and going into the review itself, but just everything that kind of went into this film felt good, and it's good to finally kind of discuss everything about it as well.
Yeah, no, I do agree with that. And kind of making this a spoiler discussion, obvious if you haven't seen it by yet, if you know it ruined for you, we'll talk about San Diego. Then stay clear, because we're going to talk about a lot of things you won't want ruined if you haven't already. But we also want to hear from you if you have seen the film. So please do comment your thoughts on Deadpool and Wolverine, what you thought, whether you liked it, whether you disliked it, if you didn't like it, things that worked, things that didn't work for you, please do comment. And if you're not watching live, we'll get back to you with those. If you want to find out about other videos, you can go get us on our social medias, Facebook, Letterboxd, Instagram, and Twitter, all under linktree.com/cinemasavvy. They're all up to date now as well. Mainly Letterboxd because it hasn't been done for a while. So this will be logged on there with a lot of other things. But kind of getting in with this, I mean, we had a spoiler-free review drop on Wednesday night/Thursday morning here. We were both very lucky that we were at the UK multimedia screening. A lot of friends there as well. We don't get to go to too many of these, and we kind of said before in live, I was very surprised we got into this. If my records are right, it's the first Marvel thing we've got into in person.
Yeah.
I mean, I'll be really honest. I haven't tried for a lot of the last few years. But this was the one where it was genuinely like I would very much like to see this one before, because it's going to get ruined everywhere. Didn't anticipate Ryan Reynolds bringing out the spoilers at San Diego Comic-Con. And listen, the people in the room, I get it. They just watched it. It's after we'd seen it. But I would be furious if I'd have woke up on Friday, hadn't seen the film, and that's the first thing everywhere is, look at everyone who's in it. You're going to be seeing it in 6 hours' time. But yeah, I mean, let's talk that night. It was pretty. Yeah. I want to talk about, before we talk about the film, I want to talk about like our thoughts heading in. I want to know your anticipation, if you were hyped for it, if you weren't, because I'm very different to this how I have been with other Marvel ones in the past.
So, and they make jokes about it in the film. Marvel's having a bit of a rough patch. I haven't managed to get around and see Echo, even though I've heard good things about it. But apart from that, there's been a lot of TV shows coming out which have been okay to good. But then apart from that, it's not on the best kind of run of form at the moment. Ever since Endgame, it's been a bit shaky, shall we say. There have been some good projects. There have been some projects that absolutely haven't worked. And I think everyone was dealing with a bit of superhero fatigue. Now, if there's one thing to beat the superhero fatigue, it's a superhero film that absolutely takes the piss out of the fact that it's going through a bit of superhero fatigue. And I was very excited going into this film, not just because I enjoyed the 2 previous Deadpool films. I think Deadpool 1 was fantastic on first watch, and it still holds up now. Some of the jokes don't land, but it's still a funny film to go back and watch. And same with Deadpool 2. Once again, some of the jokes don't land, but it's a comedy film which you're happy to watch on kind of repeats if you get the chance to. Going into this film, I was excited. I love the character that Ryan Reynolds has been able to kind of at least revive from the depths of X-Men Origins Wolverine, and bring forward to this modern age. And the fact that it's now linked into the MCU, there was one thing that I was worried about, was that this wouldn't be kind of R-rated, 18, heavy blood, gore, and violence, and the heavy amounts of swearing and meta humor and 4/4 breaks, because it's Disney. We can immediately put those kind of worries aside and say this film absolutely nails all of those elements on every single level. And I mean, personally, straight away, this is probably my favorite of the 3 Deadpool films on first watch out of all of them.
I'm in the same boat. Hype-wise, I can talk about it. I wasn't really if anyone's seen our new video, the Mount Rushmore one on X-Men, I kind of spoke about it, that we had this basically big discussion, which was to go with Logan or Deadpool for the final slot. And I kind of mentioned, Deadpool, although I think Logan's a better film, you don't get Logan without Deadpool. It was Deadpool that was that first rated R superhero film. It was the one that really set a lot of things in motion, not just for superhero films, but for rated R, sort of bringing back into popularity loads of other things. And I kind of mentioned the first time I watched Deadpool, I loved it. I thought it was one of the funniest things I've ever seen in my life. Second time, I hated it. I watched it for the third time on the train on the way down to London, and I thought it was all right. It was better than that second viewing.
Mm.
It's a really weird one because I wasn't necessarily hyped. I was still concerned about Hugh Jackman, only because I love him as Wolverine. I know he can play it. But it was the fact we had this great ending with Logan, and I didn't want that to be undone. That was genuinely my biggest thing going into this film, was that Logan side of things. And really, it nailed that, and we'll be talking about Wolverine quite a lot. And I really like what they actually did with the different universes. Wolverine, that it was a different universe. Wolverine who has had a different life to the one we have seen for 20 plus years. So we'll talk about the Wolverine stuff in a bit, but it very quickly, sunk away that thought. And then because I hadn't been as hyped for it, I felt like I didn't have more expectation. I just kind of let the film happen. I didn't have thoughts. I didn't have, I want to see this will happen. I didn't like, I think more Madness was the one where everyone was like, we've got to see this. We've got to see this. I was just like, I just want this to be a Deadpool film which knows what it's doing with the multiverse, which knows what it's doing with Hugh Jackman. And if they can nail that and move on, then I'm in with it. And I had an absolute ball. And the atmosphere in that cinema
was fantastic.
Yeah, and like I'm always the first to moan about like American audiences when I've seen them, like the standing up screaming. For the first time in my life, I did see someone stand up in a cinema in the UK. Thankfully,
it was for that one scene. It was warranted. Like it was.
It's fine. It's warranted, but like it wasn't in my line of sight, wasn't it? So it was fine. No. But I just saw it in the far right corner of my eye, and I was like screaming for the person behind. But the audience really enhanced viewing this because it was also respectable at the same time. It wasn't screaming over words, screaming over people's dialogue. It was the right thing. And I'm very, very interested I'm going to see this again at the cinema, I think next Saturday. And maybe, I've got multiple people that want to see it, which goes to how popular this film is being. A lot of people do want to go. And I'll be interested to see this to different audiences. And I guess I've got to do the No Way Home test, right? Which is when the film eventually comes out at home, when certain characters are introduced. I feel like this handled it better than No Way Home, but the awkward through the gate, standing there, nothing happens for 5 seconds. Whereas this felt, I've seen the meme of the Deep from The Boys. But it's basically like this was every character introduced in Deadpool and Wolverine. It was when the Deep goes back into The Boys when he does the face turn and waddles to the camera. And I think that's like epitomized this for me. And I had a blast. I had a blast with it, and kind of kickstarting where we're going to go with the spoilers. I mean, should we talk about Logan first? The opening scene. Probably one of the best opening title sequences Marvel's ever going to get.
I agree.
The adamantium skeleton of Logan. And I was worried for a very brief moment when he started digging the corpse, saying, he can't die. I was like, if he's there, like, on, like, the end of his life or whatever, but they brought up the full skeleton, I was like, great. That's saved. I can differentiate a universe, right? And that's no problem for me. But I was like, that's protected Logan, protected that legacy. And then the entire action sequence, the music being played, the dancing, the actual action. And it's something that not a lot of people are talking about. But the action in this film was superb. The choreography of the action set pieces. And I feel like no one's talking about that. Everyone's understandably talking about certain actors that appeared or certain things that happened or people that haven't liked the film have been very vocal on what they dislike about the film. But I thought this is the best choreography that the Deadpool films have had. The fight to fight with Wolverine multiple times, the use of small locations for it, doing it in like a desert wasteland. I thought this was some of the best action certainly Deadpool films have had, and that opening was outrageous in every sense of the word outrageous, but in terms of its quality too. And I think that will go down as like an instant classic scene that people talk about for years.
Yeah, it's bringing back a classic song that everyone kind of knows and everyone knows the lyrics to and everything like that. And everyone's kind of bopping their heads to it and everything like that. But not only that, but the action scenes. One thing that I've been a massive kind of in massive criticism of, especially during the MCU, is cutting on hits. And there have been certain MCU films where they've absolutely nailed it and they don't cut on the hits and the action seemed a bit better. I'm looking at, your Civil Wars, I'm looking at your kind of Winter Soldiers and everything like that, where the action's been a little bit more focused on what's going on the screen instead of kind of, punch and then cut away kind of thing and everything like that. This film doesn't hold back its punches. It actually shows them and actually shows kind of the action of it and the consequences of it as well, which leads to some humorous situations, including the ass and, the dick kind of like shaking with the claws and everything like that. But, I really enjoyed all of the action throughout this entire film because they show a lot more. In the fight scenes, they don't cut away to a second location. They show the fight scenes, and especially when they introduce all of the, the kind of rogues gallery, the new X-Force, shall we say, lineup that comes into this film, the Fox Reunion, so on the film. Each of them get their individual moments. Each of them get their time on screen, which is kind of the whole reason as to why they're there in the first place. They're there because they're characters that have been shunned in the past. Let's do these characters right. And they do them right through the action. They show their potential. And that just proves kind of the filmmaking and stuff like that. And we had this small discussion beforehand. Remember the name Sean Levy, and his direction and his ability to direct a film like this, who has worked with both Ryan and also with Hugh in separate films before. But this is kind of first soiree into the MCU, and this is first kind of soiree into this style of film, I guess, and everything like that with the meta humor and
a lot of comedies. He's done a lot of comedies.
He's done Cheaper by the Dozen. He's done
The Internship.
The Internship. Yeah,
Real Steel, which
yeah,
it's not a comedy, but I love that film.
Free Guy was probably his most recent one. So those were his two kind of matchups with the two previous actors.
A lot of Ryan Reynolds.
The one massive criticism you can give this film is very, very weak on the plot department. But realistically, when you go and watch a Deadpool film, you're not watching it for the plot. If you're going there for the plot of this film, you are there for the wrong reasons. The reason why you're going to watch this kind of film is because you like violence, you like swearing, you like meta humor, you like in-jokes, you like cameos, and you like all those things. And I mean, I know we don't really talk about star ratings and stuff like that on this channel, but I gave this a 5-star purely on the fact that it delivered exactly what I expected it to deliver. I didn't expect it to have a miraculously like the best plot of any MCU movie, some intricate kind of, stuff going on. I was there to have a laugh, and I had a laugh, and that's the film delivering on its premise, and that's a film delivering on what the audience wants. It's the only criticism I give for it is that the plot is very weak, but then I realize I'm not there really for the plot. I'm there to watch kind of, these two characters interact, which they haven't done they've done on screen before, but and not very well done. So, that along with the action, it leads to a fantastic kind of showing for the film. And the opening sequence is absolutely where that shines kind of brightest with, the kind of 4/4 breaks with the kind of dancing, whereas with the action sequence, with kind of using Logan's dead body as a weapon and everything, and different elements of his body being used as a weapon throughout the titles. It's really well put together.
Yeah, and kind of what you said there was about the Sean Levy stuff, that he's obviously got a good working relationship with Ryan Reynolds to do multiple films of his time after time after time. Clearly a safe pair of hands. And I'm kind of in the same boat with you. I was thinking about this the other day and I was like, yeah, there's no coherent story. And it's, and I understand people that aren't going to like the film for that. The film's got no plot, no story, no character development for them. And I take all of that on board and say, I understand that. But for me, watching this film, I'm not saying it's not even about that, but the film is called Deadpool and Wolverine. And it's been marketed as like a buddy team-up film. It's been marketed in this way. We're going to see these two fight. We're going to see these two take on the multiverse or this sort of stuff. And it delivered on exactly what it promised. It delivered with the prior Deadpool films. It delivered with the prior Wolverine films. It didn't decimate Logan as in the story. Yes, he decimated the remains of the skeleton, which led for some great one-liners of, the whole point of it in this universe, like Wolverine is essentially like their god. And I absolutely love that about it. Essentially the logic of the story is I had to find a replacement Wolverine because of how good that last one was. Really, you could nail it down to that. And I like the fact that there is a character arc for Wolverine in this, that Wolverine has his own character arc. Yes, we don't know what's happened in his universe, and that's sort of teased that throughout and mocked throughout. We'll do a third act flashback type thing. But I'm not going into, and I don't want to. I know you don't like them, but it's got like Fast and Furious vibes, right? I'm not going into
I'd
the
heard
Fast and
that,
Furious expecting a Christopher Nolan film.
No.
I'm not comparing its quality to this because obviously this is a higher quality.
Could you imagine Christopher Nolan trying to direct a Fast and Furious film?
It'd actually be probably wonderful. It'd be Fast Five. It'd actually be Fast Five. I just find it really interesting with this is that sort of people pick and choose what they want to critique and what they don't. And I'd be the first to jump on the bandwagon saying, I haven't jumped up and said Marvel's back. That's like a statement. Like, no. I'm not saying Marvel's gone. I'm not saying Marvel's back. I'm just sort of in this thing that for the first time in their history of 08 to 19 onwards, it's been inconsistencies. Is their consistency? They were consistently dropping bangers after banger, and then post this like they do one I think's great, and they do one I don't think's great. They do one that's maybe not great, and then there's too much TV, and they've just been very inconsistent for the last few years. And I feel that behind the scenes they are probably working on what they want to do. But I think in the meantime, Deadpool and Wolverine sits in this really weird. It's almost like I don't want to say filler episode.
So one of the biggest things that you mentioned there, which I think is massively helping this film, and I will talk about box office later, but marketing. This is probably one of the most marketable MCU films in a very long time.
This is on No Way Home level of hype heading into it.
Yeah.
The difference of this is, imagine if No Way Home had pretended that it wasn't going to have Toby, and Andrew, and it's frustrating. Yes, it was COVID, it was different, but if those three could have gone on a press tour together, this film wasn't, it's a Deadpool film, but we all know Wolverine's going to be in it. It knew what it was from the absolute get-go. And even to Deadpool's credit, they've been mocking Hugh Jackman in the other releases. He wore a mask of Hugh Jackman in the first one at the end as a joke, and I think that to get Hugh Jackman back, he deserved to be marketed in this. I know I'll probably talk about Daphne Keenan a bit because that's been brought up actually through Kevin Feige, but this film knew, and they said it wasn't trying to be something. It wasn't saying this is going to be Deadpool and Friend, which was one of the original titles which people hated. We all knew it would still be Wolverine, but there would be some shite puns with that. It knows what it is. Audiences are going because they know what it is. It wasn't that, now the midnight screening's out. We all know they're in it. Now everyone else is going to go. It is, man, we get to see Hugh Jackman play Wolverine again. And we're going to get to see loads of other stuff. And there's going to be things in this film for different people. And if we sort of, I've mentioned essentially the story of Deadpool's right, got to go off to find a Logan, save the universe. I want to talk about the term cameo. There are cameos in this film, right? And I'll tell you this. There are 2 cameos. The other characters are supporting actors in minor roles. Yeah, but they're brushed under the term cameo because, it's what people think of that thing, right? Someone pops. Basically, these days, if a character pops up who wasn't marketed being a film, people think it's a cameo. Like Matt Damon in Interstellar. Yeah. If that happened today, someone will say Matt Damon had a cameo in Interstellar. It's like,
no, he was an integral part of the plot. He was a surprise role, but
they kept quiet, and they did very well to keep these quiet. So I'm going to say, we'll talk about the bit people talk about. Let's talk about some Logans because let's talk about cameo number 1. Henry fucking Cavill. There was a moment when I was, and I say this, I used to read X-Men comics when I was younger. I don't have the knowledge I could do on Spider-Man or other like Marvel or DC stuff, so I can't sit here and tell you I've read every single story. I've read like the core ones, like Dark Phoenix. I've read Days of Future Past, stuff like that. And going to the different multiverses of the Wolverines, I know is actually, all of them were not necessarily comic accurate, but they are known portrayals of Wolverine in different universes. And I love seeing that. And I like that Hugh Jackman was doing that because he got to have a bit of fun as well. Even the short Wolverine, which was very funny and taking the piss. Because obviously everyone's main fear is that Hugh Jackman's 6'2", that he's not 5'3". And I thought it was very amusing, a lot of that. But the Henry Cavill one, I didn't even clock because of the reaction in screening. They then started taking the piss out of DC in that same sentence. And what makes this worse, this cameo leaked on the day of the premiere. Someone in this, apparently, at the actual premiere, like not like, a screening for press or whatever, the actual premiere where it was screened for the first time last Monday, people were recording it throughout. And apparently the Henry Cavill clip's been online. It's more the fact they built up to him that made it funnier. that they specifically hadn't shown him. And I didn't think it'd be Cavill. I just thought we'd get like, oh, we're going to get like a Hugh Jackman we've seen before or something else. But for that to be Henry Cavill, which, you know, for those wondering, well, why is it Henry Cavill? Well, obviously he's a name that's always thrown around to be Wolverine. I don't think it'll happen.
Him and Daniel Radcliffe are the two names that have, and Aaron Taylor Johnson are the three names that are thrown around all the time for that role. So
yeah, I don't think the three will make it when Marvel comes to doing the next full X-Men stuff. And I was watching a video on the train. I think Hugh Jackman and Ryan Reynolds were on like one of them interviews where they're like, you agree, disagree, that sort of thing. And they actually said, you know, could Daniel Radcliffe do Wolverine? Or it was like Daniel Radcliffe could do Wolverine, but Hugh Jackman can't do Harry Potter. And they had to like do the agree or disagree thing.
Yeah.
But it was just like a great little moment. And that's what a cameo is, right? It's a bit of fun.
Yeah.
He probably came onto set for a day. He ticked off. And I think this is different to the Multiverse of Madness ones, where it was, look how smart we are. We're bringing on all these cameos to kill them off 2 mistakes. And I love that sequence, by the way. Yeah. I know that X-Force did that in Deadpool 2 as well. And I love it when they sort of do that thing. But I think it was handled quite poorly, that none of the actors were in the studios. They just got who they could. Daniel Craig was going to be one of them. They were literally just making up as they went along. I get that because of COVID. I like the sequence. But this felt so perfect because we'd seen so many Hugh Jackmans back to back that in your mind, you don't think it's going to be someone else. And then it is Henry Cavill, and he's absolutely fucking ripped. And for anyone who has seen it as well, the same day Deadpool came out, the Ministry of Ungentlemanly Warfare came out on Prime Video. So they're literally getting a free Henry Cavill marketing day that he's had 2 films out on the same day, technically, in the UK. But yeah, I mean, I don't have anything more to say on the.
I mean, the only other
cameos from the start.
Outside the Deadpool cameos, which the Logan cameos and seeing different Logans and stuff like that, we did get Happy as well.
Yes, that's what I was going to say.
We
and
get
the room is
littered
with MCU artifacts, which was a lovely little throwback. Watching the background, saying, "What's this from? Is this from this?" And obviously, Sony didn't clear a cameo from Tom Holland because they put the Iron Man helmet in front of his photo. Yeah. But another cameo I want to talk about, and this is actually the indirect one. We got Hulk.
Yeah.
Yes, for like a second. There have been murmurs over the last few years of a potential Wolverine versus Hulk film. I don't think that will happen. But to get it in this, even for like a second or 2 seconds, was great. And that's what I kind of wanted from this film. Like, it's going back to the comics. It's going back to the roots of things and having fun with it. Hugh Jackman's coming back from one-off film. He's like, can I fight the Hulk? Sure, we can get you in for a couple of seconds. Great. I'm going to do Hulk. I'm going to do Deadpool. I'm going to get to be these variants of myself. These are probably things I can never have done unless I got another film, and I'd get one of these things maybe in a scene. But he was able to do all of this. And I think he's having a lot of fun with this, even though he's playing Wolverine, I feel like as an actor, he's loved the fact he's back. And I'll go so far to say is I don't think Hugh Jackman would have returned for the sake of no reason.
No, he wouldn't.
I don't, as much as they joke about the divorce, which was wild for them to reference that.
That was the best joke of the entire film. And the reason why was because the reactions from the entire crowd were just, as if it was the joke that went almost too far. And then there was just murmurs afterwards. It was one of those jokes where...
It's about his abs.
Yeah.
It's like he's not going to show his abs in this film because he's gone for the divorce. And then obviously the end of the film, yes, we get the abs anyway. But obviously Hugh Jackman would have signed that off, right? But I just thought that's the humor. I mean, it is the humor I enjoy. But I was like, you know what you said at the start, right? Is Deadpool going to do what he did before? There's crossing the line. And I think there's crossing the line in a sort of shite way. Like, let's do Baby Hitler. Let's kill Green Lantern. Let's kill this. But like, no, like, let's get something that, yes, it's current, but it's facts to your co-lead of the film, and you're going to rinse it. And again, and I know that Hugh Jack, and I think because he's divorced on good terms, or that's what's been made, you know, he's been with his partner like 20, 30 years. I'd imagine that's all been agreed. But if it wasn't agreed, then it just makes it more of a savage thing. But that's kind of what Deadpool is. And I didn't feel like we got that in the second Deadpool film, which is why I never took to that even on the first viewing.
No, instead we got jokes about current affairs like dubstep. There wasn't anything hard or cutting, or we got one joke.
There was a Thanos joke because it was the same month, and
but apart from
Cable's not even mentioned in this.
No, I think he's mentioned once, very, very briefly. But apart from that, like there are some characters in this film which are completely disconnected from last film, like Cable, Domino's not even slightly mentioned in it. yeah, it's almost like Deadpool 2 didn't happen. Like that's kind of how it's, you know.
And what it does, I mean, I'm sorry to jump back. I know it opens with the MCU intro, which was great.
Yeah.
Because I thought, oh, are they going to like are they going to fill it with Deadpool? Are they going to stop it, take the piss, put Fox up, whatever? Obviously, you got a great one and goes, oh yeah, that sounds great or whatever. What this film does, and we'll get to the Fox stuff later. I thought this film was going to be, Disney's bought Fox. Let's just like not like shit on Fox, but let's take the piss out of how bad Fox has been. Let's you know, we've seen the behind the scenes photos of the destroyed Fox logo, all this stuff. What I didn't expect the film to be was actually more of a love letter to those Fox films, and we'll talk about some of the characters later that appeared. But there is someone did a tweet saying there's no MCU cameos. Remember, we've named 2 of them already. Hulk
You get
Happy,
4 as well. Which I think is a flash forward to Secret
archive. The Thor one is archive footage of Thor, the second one, with Loki's faking his death. And apparently one of the original ideas for this film is the first 30 minutes would have been a shot-for-shot remake of Thor the Dark World, which I'm so glad it wasn't.
That's a cool joke to play after the film's been made, but maybe not for the actual film.
And one other idea that came out they had was this film would not be called Deadpool Wolverine. They'd have never told anyone Wolverine was in it. It would be some random police film released that no one had any anticipation for, and then the world would find out that it's actually Deadpool and Wolverine. Now, I get why they did that because they made more money, but there's that curiosity side to me that I'd love one day there to be like a viral sensation, and it's like there's a hidden gargantuan film in this shit one that no one wanted to watch. Never going to happen. Physically impossible. Leaks the rest of it for social media, but I'm glad we got the film we did because again, it knew what it was. It knew what it needed to be. And in kind of this, I mean, we've mentioned Fox. The essence of the story is he's got to find his Logan to bring him back to save his timeline, which I actually quite liked as well. Bringing the TVA in without making it a TVA thing, cracking a joke. Yes, I know this monster because I saw Loki season 1 episode 5. Great joke. And that's the mocking of people having to research Marvel, but you don't need to actually watch the episode to understand where they were for the purpose of the story. But a step up. Chris Evans as Johnny Storm. I want to hear your thoughts on this because I can't go into it too much, but I have known of this for a year, so I didn't get that reaction that a lot of you did. I was still buzzing, but that was a confirmation of what I know rather than oh my fucking god, because I would have gone through the roof. However, without sounding like an arrogant bellend, I would have also known it was Fantastic Four straight away because he's categorically said he won't be Captain America again.
Yeah, it was one of those where it was like, okay, they can pull back Chris Evans. Now, what version of Captain America is this? Was my immediate first thought. So I was like, you're in the void. You can pull from any universe. What version of Captain America could you pull here? Now, I was thinking through and I was thinking, look, there are so many different comics and stuff like that and so many different Earth universes. He could be evil. He could be, like, he could have gone Captain Britain and had a British accent. There was you have absolutely no idea of what kind of could have happened. The second he said "flame on," I think most of the room lost it. Like it was a fantastic thing. I've heard that a lot of people's reactions in cinemas is laughing instead of cheering, which is interesting. But it's very, very, very interesting. I enjoyed the reveal. I also love the fact that throughout the rest of the film, when he is kind of involved in it, he is very much a Johnny Storm character and very much not a Steve Rogers character. And he really leans into that, especially with the end credit sequence and, what goes on there with all of that. So it's nice to see him in a different role again. I know we've seen him in various different things, like we saw him in The Grey Man, we saw him in Knives Out, which are very different roles to, what he's done in the MCU. But I'd love to see him do more kind of roles like this, where he can play a proper shitbag, dirtbag, but also the hero at the same time.
Yeah, and also the way he went, because Chris Evans can't stick around. We got more of him than I thought we'd get, and that's full credit for me.
And that's why I'd say it propelled the plot forwards. It's more than a cameo.
Yeah, and as the film develops later, you understand that role and his purpose more so. And he goes out in one of the most savage ways, having his skin ripped from his body and bringing Cassandra Nova as the villain. Didn't realize Emma Corrin was going to be playing Charles' twin sister. I thought the whole time she was going to be like a renegade from the Doctor Strange, the magician things. My fault, just because I guess I saw a bold woman. I thought, oh, it's Marvel, it's another one. And obviously we'd seen the spinning things in the trailers. So I was like, okay, I don't know if it's just marketed as playing Cassandra Nova, but I liked how disgusting her hands, thick, creepy thing was.
Oh, that was so gross.
I kind of put in that spoiler for reviews. I don't take much to the villain, and I'm kind of in the same boat. Like, am I watching the Deadpool and Wolverine film for the villain?
No.
I want to see the pair.
None of the villains have been. None of the villains have been that. I mean, you could say Cable's kind of a villain in Deadpool 2, but
Cable anti-hero,
it's
the films are about him.
No,
they've always been about him, and I don't mind that, and that's what I kind of liked of this. That again, it knows what it is. It's not trying to be anymore. It's not trying to be smart. It's not trying to throw a curveball and actually the villain's Galactus or it's Magneto or it's this or that or the other. It again goes for something a bit different that has an emotional payoff of a character toward the end with a great moment from Hugh Jackman and this Wolverine. But also the villain works for the purpose of the character, that she's putting them on the journey. What they need to do, they need to basically get back to their time. They need her powers. Simple as that. Simple story, simple MacGuffin. It's the friends you make along the way, that kind of road trip thing. And that's where the film really did work more for me. And through the road trip, yes, we got Mad Max jokes. We had very famous, I think they got the Fantastic Four car thing. The whole Mad Max vibe. You had Sabretooth return, who the much anticipated Sabretooth Wolverine fight that would finally happen was a great samurai 5-second one swipe and done. Loved that. Again, it's putting something in which could be done. I don't think Ray Park was Toad for obvious reasons if people have followed Ray Park the last few years. But even Toad popping up for 30 seconds, fair enough. No one particularly will care. But it's filling in that his people. It's the Juggernaut, but it's not Vinnie Jones. I don't actually know if they've announced the actor that played him. I didn't recognize him.
Let me have a look. I'll hunt that down.
But even them being like self-aware that it's the X-Men 3 Juggernaut armor and costume just being put on someone else, and I like that the multiverse lets them play around with this sort of stuff. But at the same time, it's it sounds like we're breaking on. There's not much more past this bit, but I really want to talk. I mean, I'm not spoken about the two fight sequences, but before we get to the big Fox roles, I guess we can say, I want to talk about the Deadpool and Wolverine fights. The first one, as they enter the void, which is the one that's been in all the trailers, was a great fight. A lot of it, as we said, I've mentioned, is in the trailers. It's been visible. A lot of people have seen it. It still looked great. And I don't think, bar the Wolverine in 2013, Hugh Jackman hasn't really had the chance to have, not like a sword fight, but he's never really had like
proper fight scenes,
an action scene. Yeah, like, because he's always going to win, right? He's not really. There's a great one with Sabretooth in X-Men Origins Wolverine, and he kind of has to because it's his solo film. The purpose is that he can't really fight in Logan, that's fine. But getting sort of a prime Hugh Jackman against a prime Deadpool was fucking great. And it's cool to get it on that first one. The second one in the car is one of my favorite fight scenes. I cannot imagine how hard it is to choreograph and shoot a fight scene in a car with these two. It was very funny. The fucking needle drop from
Greatest Showman coming in first, and then
for like half a second, wasn't it? But and I know they'd leaked the sound, not leaked. I know they'd announced the soundtrack. I did think we'd actually get an entire Greatest Showman song, but I understand why we didn't. But you're the one that I want in a fight scene with these two. A great fight scene at that. Wonderful. Like, they got two great fights, and they're very different. They weren't the same. Again, one was more their weapons and claws, the other was more just us beating the shit into each other. And it's littered with good, not speeches by Hugh Jackman, but I think people will underestimate his actual performance in this film. Yeah,
I think I can't remember who said it, but it was either Ryan or Hugh said it in an interview, whether it was Hot Ones, whether it was Chicken Shop Date, that Hugh has the most dialogue ever for Wolverine in one scene outside of Logan, like, which is in the car, kind of, talking it for one scene uninterrupted, kind of the most talking he's had, which is crazy. really crazy.
It's
And
really,
you know,
been in how many films? Like 10, 11?
I know, and they both act out their roles really well within the film, which helps for it. Even if you know the plot isn't there, the action's there, and also they're actually putting in decent lines of dialogue, good rapport with each other, whether they like each other, whether they're fighting with each other. It feels like a good relationship on screen, and you can tell that they were probably good mates off screen as well, and they really got on with kind of everything that went through. From kind of first script reads all the way through to kind of actually filming it. By the way, the Juggernaut, you will probably know this person, was played by Lift Sawyer, former pro WWE wrestler, also known as Aaron W. Reed.
I don't know that too much, but I will have to Google it.
Yeah,
I've just Googled it, old developmental. So yeah, I won't have a clue, but I'm sure some people do. But I can understand why Vinnie Jones didn't come back. It probably wouldn't have worked for that scene. And I think apparently some of the other people that in that, like, not the fairground, that the Great Paul Rudd Ant-Man joke as well. But I think that was littered with like people that popped up in other X-Men films. Again, I don't know if it's the same actors or actresses, but the whole purpose was, again, we're bringing in Fox people, not MCU, and kind of where that really comes into fruition is after the fight with Wolverine, when he wakes up in the room and out comes Jennifer Garner's Elektra. Now, I believe most people thought she would be in it because I think she was spotted in London last year, wasn't she, when filming was on or something like that. But I've never seen Elektra, so I couldn't have the reaction that a lot of people did. And this is why I like this kind of thing, that there was a great reaction for her. And a lot of people always say she was hard done by.
I know I'd not seen the film either, but immediately you see her and you know immediately who it is because you're aware of the film and you're aware of kind of the history with that. But it did get a decent sized reaction straight away from the crowd, followed up by a bigger reaction for the next person.
Was it Blade before Gambit?
Blade was the next one, and that was the biggest reaction of the night.
That might have been the one time I actually, not at who overreact, but like that was probably the one where I was like, fuck, like, not the fact is Blade, like, you've somehow got Wesley Snipes to come back as Blade, and it's not the big thing Wesley Snipes has come back. Well, it is a big thing. The statement there is Mahershala Ali's Blade is in development hell. He came out of San Diego 5 years ago this year.
Yeah.
And Wesley Snipes has been back on a Marvel screen before he has, playing Blade. And again, right, you look at like the Expendables 3, that he came back and they made a joke out of the fact that he had his taxes, he'd been in prison. Fucking hell, Blade's in this. Like, again, and it was kept quiet. And not at any point in the last year or two have I ever seen anyone even remotely talk about Wesley Snipes potentially being in this film. No. So many of us have come under the sun, but bringing Blade in is why. And for me, I've never seen a Blade film. So what did I do when I got home that night? I ordered the trilogy on Amazon, so I can finally watch them. But it's one of them which, and not just because of me, but this film's going to introduce new audience members to these films. And I should have said it when you spoke about Johnny Storm, that there'll be people that probably didn't see Fantastic Four and 05. No. Like we were younger, right? We were like 9, 10 when that came out.
I watched.
Can't remember what year.
I watched both Fantastic Four.
I saw both at the
cinema.
cinema.
Yeah.
And it was like a family thing. And I remember them being really big. And you grew up and everyone hated them, apparently. And they disrespected the characters. This. And I was like,
no, I always liked those.
Like, I liked them. Yeah, like, I didn't know people hated them. And
it's so funny. When I first kind of got into film reviewing and stuff like that, I did look at the ratings online for Rise of the Silver Surfer because I did quite like it as a film. And I saw that it was getting absolutely shit on. I was like, I really like that film. Kind of, it's an interesting
realized as well how they basically whitened Thingy Bob the Invisible Woman. You kids, right? You don't understand any of that.
No.
But it's like there'll be kids now that have probably never seen Fantastic Four. They're probably like, oh, Captain America was in Marvel before, or is he playing a new character? Or you might get some people think, is this the new Fantastic Four cast? Maybe we'll meet them tonight in San Diego, but time will tell. But then to top off bringing back these two, and obviously Daphne Keene's been spoiled, so we'll get to her in a minute.
Spoiled in the trailers, and I'm really disappointed they spoiled that in the trailers because that would have been a
they've announced now why. Kevin Feige's come out and basically said she was desperate to attend the world premiere, and she really wanted to be a part of the premiere to be able to go because she'd worked on it.
She could have gone to the premiere without revealing that she was in the film, because she was in the last Wolverine film that he did.
I thought this too, and then apparently Kevin Feige's then said the marketing team agreed and says we can put in the trailer about Wolverine's emotional stuff. Now, I didn't see that trailer, so I can't even tell you if they hinted at anything.
It was the worst trailer. It was the worst trailer out of all of them.
It really... I understand her logic, right? If you're an actor, you've come back to play this character, you're back with Wolverine, you've been in Logan. I'd understand you'd be desperate to see it at that premiere, considering they hadn't screened it for anyone. But then at the same time, it is that caveat of, if it's a secret role. And I know that they got their moment as well at San Diego, which kind of makes it a bit more like, well, if you need to go into San Diego, did you need to go to the premiere 3 days before? Because that San Diego crowd would have been better than the crowd at the red carpet in America. But the final person is Channing Tatum's Gambit, which this will go down the most interesting. You really need to know film to get this one. Now, I'm not taking the piss. I'm not being a snob.
This is a deep cut.
Yeah, and that's it. Like, obviously, Channing Tatum is probably one of the biggest actors in the sense of the four that pop up at that point, that he's more recognizable. Everyone's going to be thinking, what the fuck's this accent? Why is he talking French? I love the fact they ridiculed his French accent. Yeah. I've just started watching the X-Men animated series, so I'm now hearing the Gambit stuff. Yeah. But that is I think, was it like 2013, 14, Fox announced he'd been to San Diego to be like on stage as Gambit, not in costume, but like he'd come out on stage to be like, we're doing a Gambit film starring Channing Tatum, and it was just stuck in developmental hell. And then obviously the merger happened, and then it was just leaped from memory. And I really like the fact they gave him this role, and I understand if this won't work for some, that people are, like Nicolas Cage in The Flash. I think it's uncomparable to that, because Nicolas Cage was CGI'd in for that 2 seconds. And I'm pretty sure he didn't know what he was doing. Is like he was just told to be CGI'd in, or they used the archive footage to CGI him. Can't remember. Whereas this was, we got to see Gambit in a supporting role, a minor role, but in a supporting role. It's not one scene. It wasn't one scene that's killed them all off in the next scene. All of them made it through to the end. They made it to the massive action set piece that Channing Tatum finally got the chance to play Gambit. And now we spoke about all the big roles that have happened. These are the ones that all turn up at San Diego on Thursday. So they did a panel. They showed it on Thursday night because it came out on Friday in America. And then after the screening, Hugh Jackman and Ryan Reynolds brought the whole cast out, which, yes, give them their due. 100%, because they are, and I get the logic that if you're not going to the premiere, if they knew about San Diego, great. And I understand Daphne Keane, so it's more, I'd rather they'd have said from the day one should be in it. Like, everyone assumed she'd be in it. She literally signed, when I was at the Acolyte premiere, I saw her sign a Deadpool and Wolverine poster, so it wasn't, I don't think it was that hidden a secret. And it was the most obvious one, right, of anyone who'd expect to be in it from the immediate X-Men family. It would be her because of Logan, because of everything else. But keeping these four in the film was great. I loved it.
It was it's the dynamics of them, because you've got one person who was part of this franchise in this universe who only was given one film to show what they got, which was, Daphne Keene's X-23. You've then got someone who had kind of one and a bit shots at a film, but it never really got off the ground. Like, she was basically given a shot, but it was bad writing that kind of, took her off the plate with Elektra. You've then got, Blade, who had a franchise in the past, but has been out of kind of the comic books for so long. And it's almost, even though he got 3 films, it's almost kind of not forgotten, but it's overshadowed massively by the films that have come afterwards.
It was the 90s.
It was the 90s, It was amazing.
And really, it kickstarted Blade. Yeah. We talk about X-Men, Spider-Man, kickstarted, but really, Blade is what spiked that in the 90s. Yes, it was R-rated and stuff like that. Ryan Reynolds was in one of them, right? Because I think what I read was years ago, I remember apparently him and Ryan Reynolds didn't get on. Wesley Snipes and Ryan Reynolds had fell out, which kind of makes it, if that was true, that makes it more insane that obviously they patched it or whatever to be in this. But the fact Blade gets to the joke, there's only ever going to be one Blade. And it was, again, that was like, oh, they went there. They went there because we all know what the fuck's going on. We've seen the reports that Mahershala Ali is fuming that that nothing's happened in 5 years. Yeah. All this stuff. What's he going to do when he sits down to watch this film? And it's like, yeah, Wesley Snipes has come back before you've had your chance. And I'm pretty sure I can't remember who that mentioned it, but I think Wesley Snipes had endorsed Mahershala Ali anyway. I mean, two-time Oscar winner, perfect casting. And I don't mind them delaying it if the film ends up being good. I guess that's really the key. But yeah, he's going to be a bit frustrated deep down.
Then the final one is the character who was announced but never even got their shot. So with Channing Tatum's Gambit, it covers everything across the board. And it's why I really enjoyed this team up. And the fight scene where they're back at Cassandra Nova's place, and they are all showing off their skills.
Yeah,
is
you get the moment.
That was, and the one thing I was actually surprised they didn't do was that they didn't do the famous Avengers circle spinning shot. I'm shocked. That would have been really funny, but especially because he said he wanted to be an Avenger. But this is basically Deadpool's version of that. This is the closest he will get to that for at least a while, and this is how he wanted X-23 to go. This is what he actually wanted from it. And the fact that he finally got his team up, that he wanted a team behind him fighting side by side. And it's the fact that they were kind of not the rejects, but they were the ones who kind of almost forgotten in their own rights. And his whole thing is that he doesn't want to be forgotten. He wants to be remembered for something good. It pulls together so well, and it pulls on those emotional beats very well. So I think one of my favorite points of the film was that team up and seeing all those characters on screen, finally seeing kind of Gambit done right. Finally seeing all the characters getting their own kind of closure for what they'd done and everything like that. It was brilliantly put together, and it just gave me just a massive grinning smile on my face throughout the entire thing.
And that's where I stand with it too, that without that sequence, it was at that point really when I was like, okay, this film isn't just Deadpool and Wolverine. Okay, yes, it's Deadpool and Wolverine, but it's like, this is looking at Fox, the company, the eras, the last 25 years, not just looking at Hugh Jackman being popular, so taking him. And I'll give it a lot of credit for that. And I think, obviously, this sequence then combined with the end credits with all the old reels, the behind-the-scenes stuff, it's a nice parting of the ways for eras, for the Fox universe. For how I don't misjudge the ending, but just because of that credit sequence, it's earned, and that's something that I didn't think this one would do, because it's Deadpool. You just assume it's here to mock Fox, like fuck Fox. He does it at the start, doesn't he? When he's like, fuck Fox, I'm finally free, thanks, bye. Like they build it well, but he's desperate to get out, but ultimately he is part of it, and the film really did deliver with that. And listen, we spoke about the plot not really being much. The whole got to get back to the TVA thing to stop Tom Wamsgans from oh my god, if they wanted a cameo, you could have put Brian Cox in it. You could have brought back X-Men for that. But Tom Wamsgans is sort of in the TVA being a villain. I don't really care. They have him in a suit. He's clearly playing himself from Succession. Don't care for that sort of MacGuffin type thing. Didn't care for Cassandra Nova, but the great scene with Wolverine where he refuses to kill her, and he gives that speech about Charles wouldn't have wanted us to do this to you. If he knew you were alive, he would have ripped a hole in the universe to find you.
Yeah.
To get that from a Wolverine who's new, and I know it's Hugh Jackman, but he really, really went in on this new take of Wolverine. And I have to credit whichever idea that came from, whether it was Hugh Jackman, whether it was the writers, whether that was maybe his thing from the first minute, that I'll only come back if I'm a different Wolverine, but I still want to have like character development, that he'd failed the X-Men in his universe, that he was, quote, the worst Wolverine to ever live. I really liked the story angle with him, and I know that Wolverine's sort of depressed in every multiverse to a point, but I think picking that, making it so different to what we've seen for the last 25 years, even the scenes with Laura where she's, he's like, I'm not that guy. And she's like, you always said you were never that guy. That's why you are him. It's just quite touching. And I think without, it being recency bias, I do think this is one of Hugh Jackman's best performances as Wolverine, both the physical side of it, with the action, with the set pieces, but also with the emoting and the development that he gets. And again, I didn't expect it from this film. I thought he'd be almost a glorified, weapon, essentially, like he has been in the past. And he has a lot of the core scenes are around him, his reactions and what he'd been through.
Yeah. And yeah, I completely agree. I mean, Logan will still be my favorite performance is his, and
Yeah,
I'm still of that regard that he should have been nominated for awards for that performance. I think it's one of the best individual solo performances in any comic book movie, put to film. I know that people will say, "Oh, Robert Downey Jr. Endgame," but realistically, Hugh Jackman Logan was a more rounded performance across the entire film. But in this film, it does have those emotional beats. It does have those moments where you can, connect to that. And I know they did that in the last trailer, and that definitely didn't hit well with me in the last trailer and everything like that. But it does seem to come together. It does seem to pull together, and it does start to do that towards the kind of end of the Fox reunion segment where they have the slow motion shot of them fighting side by side, and then we kind of get forwards towards kind of the end battle, and it gets a bit emotional because they have to sacrifice and all of that. But we do get one fun scene in between. Then we do get at one point in the film we get introduced to Dogpool, and we do get introduced to
is it Nice Pool? They call
Nice
him.
Pool, yeah, Nice Pool, which is Ryan Reynolds just acting happy all the time and stuff like that. But we do get the Wolverine and Deadpool versus 100 Deadpools kind of fight, which is it's a cool scene. It's a very kind of comic booky scene. You can point out which Deadpools are which and everything like that. So you got Welsh Deadpool in there, played by Paul Mullins, who plays for Wrexham, the football team that Ryan Reynolds has partnership for. You got Lady Deadpool or Lady Pool, who's played by his wife Blake Lively. I'm sure there are multiple other cameos thrown in there, which we would never know about, and maybe we'll find out about in behind his scenes and stuff like that. But that was kind of a fun action sequence before the kind of end, kind of emotional beat kind of sequence of them trying to save the universe and all of that with the MacGuffin. But once again, no one really cares about the MacGuffin in this film. It's there as a kind of device to just kind of get the plot going and getting it moving along and get them into certain places so that different things can happen. You're there to watch Deadpool and Wolverine. You're there to watch those two characters interact with other things, and I think that all comes together really well in those kind of in all of those smaller moments, but also on all the big, amazing action set pieces that we talked about. Whether it's kind of the opening fight when they first kind of go to the Void when they're fighting each other, whether it's them fighting in the car, whether it's them fighting together towards the end at the compound, or whether it's them fighting together at the end against the 100 Deadpools. It all comes together, and that chemistry on screen works so well. And yeah, it just makes for a fantastic cinematic showing. I say cinematic showing because, a lot of things nowadays, it takes a lot for people to go to the cinemas as a casual fan. Of course, we go to the cinemas quite regularly because, we do this, we review films, we love films, we go there for the love of cinema. But for a casual fan, I think they're going to love this interaction. I think they're going to love every element of the film. It's going to absolutely, it's going to pull them together. Just like this film kind of pulled Deadpool and Wolverine together.
Yeah, and I do feel like it's that great medium ground for Marvel to get back on track somewhat. Because again, when you get to the ending, you have the pair of them willing to sacrifice themselves to save their universe. They can both die once more. The incredible needle drop on the Madonna song, like a prayer, combined with a choir singing it as well, worked really well for the film. And I know it's been in all the trailers. I know we got the Golden Guns. We got Nice Pool being slaughtered, which was funny for a bit, but then that felt like a Ryan Reynolds joke, didn't it? Where it just went on too long. And Ryan Reynolds very good at making things last too long that shouldn't. But I had a lot of fun with that. Obviously, Lady Deadpool wasn't as big as people made out to be. It's Blake Lively, and that's it. Nothing more to really add to it. Not a big deal of making it Blake Lively. I know some people thought it could have been Taylor Swift, and we can also confirm that Taylor Swift was not playing Dazzler in the film as well. She didn't appear, thank God. Otherwise, the cinemas would be swarmed with people screaming and dancing.
Oh my God!
But yeah, I don't have too much more to add, really. I know where the film. We get Wolverine in the mask. I've got a very controversial opinion. Yes, it was cool to see. I don't like the eyes. I don't know if that's. I don't know if it's just unavoidable. And I know, listen, that's not the purpose, but I'm not there to talk about the eyes of costume, but some people waited decades to see fully suited up Wolverine, and they got their moment. I just love seeing him in the yellow, if I'm honest. It was great to see that, but the final sequence I had a lot of fun with. And again, I don't care for the ending of the MacGuffin, the TVA side of things, saving their worlds. Yeah. It's all good because again, I'm not really attached to a Deadpool film to get all that. I'm not attached to Deadpool and Wolverine. The bit I do like is more than anything is Wolverine being sat with Laura at the table at the end. That's more my in this different multiverse, the pair of them got each other. And whether we see Hugh Jackman again, I don't know. I don't want to be that guy who says I don't want him to come back again. I know Hugh Jackman's older, and I know to get his body in shape now. I know he spoke about how difficult it was for Logan, let alone this last year. I do not know if we would see him again. I personally don't think we will. And it's not like a bad thing. It's more, I think in the next few years, Marvel's going to announce what they're going to do with the X-Men. And I think when a new Wolverine comes in, I think they'll want to. How would you say it nicely? Like you can't replace. It'd be like if
I think like if they're going to use him again, if they're going to use him again, it's going to be for Secret Wars. Has to be. If they're going to do the whole battle
and
planet
if it was
thing,
for Secret Wars,
100%.
if it was for Secret Wars, I'm okay with it. But I don't think we'll get him in like a leading role again.
No.
And if we did, I'm not saying I'm concerned, but I think they know they've got to cast a new Wolverine at some point, and Kevin Feige spoke about it. When we do it, I don't want another Hugh Jackman. It's got to be different. I'd say go balls to the wall. Go get someone that's 5'3" match in the comics. Go get someone who's going to wear a helmet the whole time or a mask. Whoever person that is, I wish you the best of luck following a huge. We talk about how hard it was, for George Lazenby to replace Sean Connery. There've been six Bond films within 10 years. To replace Jackson, who's played the role for 24 years or 20 plus years now, who has come back after gaps, who has been killed off as well in separate ones. It's probably one of the hardest recastings to ever do. And I do trust that they will do it. And I hope when the time comes that, like many great roles in the past, you just let the actor have their moment. But more importantly, let's hope the screenplay and that is up to scratch. And I'm sure that Hugh Jackman will immediately endorse that actor as well. He seems like the type of guy that's going to be chill with it too. Yeah. It's one of them where I just had a lot of fun with it. But, as I said, like I remember going to watch Logan at 10:23 p.m. because that's what time they released it rather than midnight here, which was so strange. I get why, because of X23. But to get him back, it's what I wanted. They handled Logan well, and kind of with my final thoughts on the film, I had a blast of it. I can't wait to see it again. I am curious to see how it holds up. I know I mentioned that earlier. That's going to be the big test for me because it was with the first Deadpool. But at the end of the day, I'm fully on the Wolverine hype train. I just fucking love Hugh Jackman.
So I know I have to rewatch this twice. I have to rewatch this once with my mates, and I have to rewatch this once with my dad. So I know I'm going to be seeing it at least 2 more times. So I'm hoping that the jokes do hold. Before I go into my final thoughts, I'm actually looking at the cast list. Headpool, the floating head Deadpool, was played by Nathan Fillion. Cowboy Pool was played by Matthew McConaughey.
Okay. Do you think it was just a voice?
I think it was probably just a voice. Maybe he was there in costume. Who knows? Because, that'd
have been wild.
Yeah. I did kind of want an unmasking of them and just seeing it, but that's an interesting one. Apart from that, there's none others. Nice Pool is credited as Gordon Reynolds, which is hilarious.
That's quite fair. I give him that.
And yes, it was Ray Park.
Okay. That was
uncredited. Uncredited.
Okay.
But Ray Park. It was Ray Park.
Okay. That's interesting. Probably not the smartest decision. People read up on that yourself. Trust me, it's not a good one. Wow. Sorry, I'm just trying to work about past that. Let's talk. I mean, we spoke a lot. I don't think I missed any cameos. I don't think I missed any thoughts. I've given my thoughts on the film. I really want to talk about the box office because this thing is fucking huge. It has had the 8th highest ever preview night in America. Those that don't realize how big that is, this film is rated R. This is not PG-13. It's now going to get $200 million opening weekend. They're talking about in America. It grossed, I think, 96 million yesterday, or 86 million in the States. It has already surpassed the worldwide box office of the Marvels. This film, I I don't like doing the prediction. Like, can it get a billion? Can it get a billion? I'd imagine this film just end. I don't know what the stats are. I just imagine this ends up being the highest grossing R-rated film ever.
Yeah,
I'm guessing that's Joker, which made just over 1 billion in 2019. But I'd be very surprised if this just isn't people going multiple. We've both said we're going to go multiple times. I know people going multiple times. This is going to be huge, and so many people are going to continue to watch it. I'm going to pick up that steelbook as soon as the pre-orders go up. The last few Marvel films, I've let them get reduced like 15, 20 quid, but this is one that will sell out. And I just cannot state how big this is, and I think Marvel need this. It's took us away from their storytelling. It gives them time to focus their efforts elsewhere. I know we got a trailer for Captain America, which I believe is the next Marvel film, which looks a lot better than I thought it would be. I know it has been plagued by reshoots. I know there's a lot of political stuff happening, well, with real life going into there too. But yeah, this is I guess it's probably going to gross Inside Out, but guess what? That's Disney probably having 1 and 2 at the box office again.
Yeah.
Well, they've probably not had that for a couple of years, but it is one where I'm really interested to see what this does over the coming months, what merch might come from it, what ideas this might do behind the scenes. Will we get a 4th Deadpool film at Disney? I would like to fully give Disney credit because not only did they make this film, they let it poke fun at them. They didn't say, this is off. Cocaine's off limit. Let's do a lot of cocaine jokes, which we know it's not off limit, but I guess taking it would have been. But Disney seemed to have given this film a lot more freedom than I thought they would. Whether that's Kevin Feige really going up for it with Ryan Reynolds, I feel like they're all in. And I think once again, it's sort of showing those higher ups there is an audience for this kind of thing. And I'm not here to slag off Fox, but Fox, as historic as the studio is, the handling of the X-Men was very poor for a very long time. I'm not going to sit here and say behind like, you shouldn't have done this, you shouldn't have done this, but you look at how that universe died out. A lot of it is self-inflicted. It's not like you jeopardize your fans. It's you release stuff that no one wanted to watch. Yeah. And a lot of it came down to producers making things, pulling strings, that sort of stuff. So it's sad how the X-Men series went out. I can't joke saying that in my head it ended with Logan, but it sort of did.
I just want to point out that there are a few films after Logan,
I know. There's Dark Phoenix. There's New Mutants.
Yeah.
And I know that Apocalypse was just before Logan.
Yeah.
But it's just one where, maybe because I know X-Men 97's been incredibly well received as well this year. And I know that season 2's, I think, coming out next year. I feel like we're going to head into this humongous X-Men phase of Marvel. I think Kevin Feige's gone on record to say that the Mutant Saga is what follows the Multiverse Saga.
Well, I was going to say, you've got Miss Marvel, who's already kind of dropped in as a mutant.
Yeah. You've got Beast at the end, she's a different world. And I'm not saying the Multiverse Saga has been a failure. I've mentioned that inconsistency, but if they're already looking ahead, and I know that they've spoke over the years, right, how tricky it is to plan for the X-Men and stuff like that. Yeah. I think very much once they get to Secret Wars, I know that the Russos are in talks to come back as well. Loads of other behind the scenes stuff happening. I feel like tonight at San Diego, there could be some big announcements. And then once those announcements are in, the world will know what's going to happen in Marvel for the next few years. They're not going to arrogantly do a schedule like they did 2-3 years ago, which didn't happen. Because technically this year we'd be having next year there'd be 2 back-to-back Avengers films. Yeah. Which definitely didn't happen. So yeah, it's an interesting state it's all been left in, but it's exciting, and I'm glad this film got the chance, as you said, like reflect upon the Fox era, bring back characters, give them their moments, remind people of what there was before the MCU, that for whatever reason of the purchase, that it wasn't like it was crap before, it wasn't shite before. Even the films that maybe didn't work for some, even Phantom Force Stick got its own little bit in the credits. And, there were people that worked on those. In fact, you had Michael B. Jordan in there, and you had a very talented cast, actually, in that film. But yeah, I've sort of run out of things to say on Deadpool and Wolverine. What about yourself?
Yeah, same. This is a fantastic film. Go watch it. I mean, people are watching the review. You've already seen it, but it's one of those films where it had hype going into it, and it delivered on those things. It absolutely, it delivered on some things I didn't think it could, and it went to places where I didn't think it could as well. So it's a brilliant film. I really, really enjoyed it, and it'll be very interesting to see where we put it in our video coming soon.
Yeah, so we are doing a big X-Men top 10 ranking video. We've got a few people locked in behind the scenes, so it probably won't be out in the next week. It'll probably be within the next couple of weeks. You want to give people a little bit of time to have seen Deadpool and Wolverine maybe once more, make sure people have had the chance to watch it. Once they send in their top 10s, we'll do a massive video as we have done in the past. And obviously, we'll be able to sort of bookend the Fox X-Men, including this, because, it's that middle ground, isn't it? And once that video's up, it will go on our channel. One quick comment by Karthik. When will Kevin Feige give his speech at Comic-Con? What time? The Marvel panel is at 2 a.m. UK time. That's 6 p.m. like LA and 11 p.m. like New York. So that's the 1 hour Marvel panel. We've got a friend hopefully in attendance, so I hope I can get some updates from him. But Fantastic Four, I think, if the cast don't turn up, we'll at least get photos of them in the costumes. They've only been filming, I think, a week. I'd imagine there's not a lot from that they can show, but I feel like we're going to get a guidance of where Marvel's heading for the next couple of years. Not necessarily here's 4 or 5 years worth. And obviously, guys, if you're really hyped up, D23 is in September, I think. So don't expect the world of announcements tonight, because they're going to be saving some for D23, which is obviously much bigger to Disney, with it being, Disney's own convention. But alongside doing the top 10, we're doing a giveaway on the channel. So we've recently surpassed 3,000 subscribers. So thank you to everyone that's done that. And we're doing a little bit of a giveaway timed in with Deadpool Wolverine. You may have seen these claw machines online, where you bought a cinema ticket, you got given a token, you then got the chance to win an egg. We have one egg from those claw machines to give away, alongside one plush of Deadpool. All you need to do is go on our Twitter. That's twitter.com/cinemasavvy. All link tree is in the description if you want to find it through there. All you've got to do is just send us a screenshot that you're subscribed to our YouTube channel, and then you'll be put forward to win these. And then obviously we'll announce a winner on Wednesday. So it's a little giveaway. And listen, if you want to know what's in the egg, we're both wearing half each. It is the Deadpool and Wolverine necklaces that have been all over the news. I can't reach the camera, Tayte, so I'm not going to try that. I'm wearing my Deadpool half.
I'm wearing
so we've got a couple of them. I did win the claw.
I did not. I'm terrible at claw machines.
But you still got one. That's what mattered. So if people do want to win something, then go to our Twitter. Just send a screenshot of subscribing, and then you're put forward immediately. So that will be announced on Wednesday. Like I said, there's a lot of things happening. Other videos we'll be announcing as and when. Maybe there'll be a video on San Diego. Who knows? But we've got House the Dragon finishing the week after next. Yes. We've got some new releases. We've got the ranking video we mentioned. We've got a brand new series, the Mount Rushmore, of where we pick up maybe an actor, a director, a film series, a genre, whatever you name it. And we'll be doing our own Mount Rushmore of that. We're explaining why we picked them for our personal ones. Then we come together to do a combined one at the end. So that's a new series starting up. There'll be more details when there's more details. The first one is on the channel for the X-Men. That worked as a soft pilot. So if you want to check that out, we do talk a lot about Logan, Deadpool, and the entire X-Men franchise in there. So that's going to do it for this. Thank you all for watching and everything else. Watching, for commenting, supporting us over the years. Again, crossing 3,000 is a big number, so we really do appreciate that. And I guess we'll see you on the next one. Take care.
Thank you.